Now they play Port Arthur, and they beat Port Arthur. Now they go to Toronto, and for 2 weeks they did nothing. They're waiting for them. See, he didn't tell you that. And they're out of shape, and plus the fact they met a powerhouse.
You lost your edge, but I'm quite sure if we'd have got on the train and Winnipeg and went there and had a skate and had to play hockey right away, it would have been a different hockey club. It was quite a feeling, to tell you the truth. It's hard to explain. You look up and you say, well, everybody in Trail could be sitting in this rink, or standing around in the rink while you were playing. When you think of it. I still have one of the pucks that I got the first goal for Trail against Bennett. So I picked the puck up and I kept it. I still got it at home.
In 1945-46, the West Kootenay Hockey League was revived.
The war is over. After the war is over, all of a sudden the war is over. Now the same hockey players come back to Trail. It was the Smoke Eaters, 39 Smoke Eaters when the war was starting, they were playing there, but they were getting on a little bit, and I was just out a junior playing with them, so I had the honor of playing with all those beautiful hockey players that taught me how to play hockey and that.
Jimmy Morris became the coach, and under his direction, the Smoke Eaters captured the league's championship and the Savage Cup. One of the notable players at this time was Larry Kwong, also known as the China Clipper. Kwong, who had starred for the Smoke Eaters, would become the NHL's first Chinese player, playing for the New York Rangers. With the formation of the Western International Hockey League in 1947, it seemed fitting for what happened next in Trail's expanding hockey history. On November 29, 1949, another redefining moment in the city's hockey history was inaugurated. On that chilly night, more than 4,000 excited hockey fans packed the newly built Kamenko Arena.
When we got into the new Kamenko gym or Kamenko Arena, that was just like hard to explain, really. I don't know how to explain it, really. We couldn't believe it, with all the seating arrangements, and the ice surface was larger. It was a beautiful, beautiful arena. Big change from the old rink.
I can remember that was my biggest thrill. I'm a 16-year-old. We go from the old rink up there. We skated the night before the Smoke Eaters played. We come from a 70 by 180 rink to a 200 by 80. Didn't change the hockey. I didn't notice the difference. It didn't matter if you were in a small rink or a big rink. The guys still went around me.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, no one had seen anything like that before, and the whole town was excited about that. And I could remember the opening games. They're total sellouts, and that's the old the Western Hockey International Hockey League, and that Kimberley, Nelson, Spokane, and Trail were the teams at that time, and. I'm really excited to go to the games, and I believe I was only, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and luckily about a year after that, I was able to get a job of selling programs, and did that for about 3-4 years, and again, that was excitement. You're selling the programs, and maybe by about the middle of the first period, you ended up finishing selling the programs, and then you'd watch the rest of the games. So it was like getting a free admission to the game, so I didn't miss a game at all in those days.
In that year, Frank Waite coached the Smoke Eaters to a provincial crown, and then followed up by another win in 1950-51 series, with the team going on to win the Western Championship also. That 1950-51 season was notable for another reason as well. Jerry Thompson was named winner of the BCAHA's first ever Diamond Stick Award in recognition of his outstanding contributions to the development of minor hockey in the province. Thompson, immediate past president of the BC Amateur Hockey Association, had played a huge role in local hockey history since arriving in Trail from Nelson in 1934. He starred for both intermediate and senior Smoke Eaters before moving behind the bench as a coach. He won several provincial midget and juvenile titles, as well as 3 Mowat Cups, which were emblematic of BC junior hockey supremacy. Trail's dominance of the BC amateur hockey was underlined when the intermediate Smoke Eaters won back-to-back Coy Cup titles. Playing on that team was one player whose hockey history journey was about to get even more rewarding.
You gotta be at the right place at the right time. I'm going to work one day, and like I say, my old mentor, Ab Crony, calls me into the office. Gordy, Edmonton Mercury's gave me a call, and they said they're short of a couple of players they needed, and the Smoke Eaters had a good reputation for years and years, you know, like that there, and doing that as an amateur, I'm saying, I guess, yeah, and doing that there. And he says, they want 2 hockey players. I'm sending you and Louis up to go try out for the Olympic team. Holy God, Ab. I says, yeah, okay, just come out of nowhere. I says, holy, try out for the Olympic team? Yeah. He says, you guys will do okay. He says, I know how good you are. He says, you'll make it.
Robertson and Secco, the 2 trail lights, proved to be just what the Canadian Olympic team needed. They would go on to win 45 out of the 50 games and bring home the Olympic gold. As Nelson and Spokane dominated the WHL through the mid-1950s, Trail concentrated on building a consistent and stable roster. One individual in particular would help install the winning spirit in the next generation of the Smoky Greats. Bobby Crom debuted with the Smoke Eaters in 1950 after playing senior hockey in Nova Scotia and Kimberley. Prior to the 1959-1960 season, Smokies player-coach Bobby Crom brashly predicted his team had what it took to win the Allen Cup. "We have the right players and the right attitude," Crom told the Trail Times. "If Trail is ever going to have another Allen Cup championship, this is the team." Crom's predictions started to look prophetic. 2 months into the 1959-1960 WHL season, the Smoke Eaters were firmly established in first place and had 5 of the league's top 8 scorers in Tambellini, Hockley, Smith, Crom, and Lenardon. Bobby Crom, true to his word, had molded his teammates with some good old-fashioned trooper techniques, the same way a drill sergeant hones his troops for combat. That's the kind of winning spirit Bobby had. Although some may have thought he was a little too rough and tough on his boys, he realized the dream for all of them. He was truly one of the greats we will remember in our hockey history.
You can say what they want about Bobby Crom, but we soon found out that we could skate with any hockey club that was ever put on the ice. I swear it. And during our league play, and once we got into the starting the tour and the championships, we knew with our goaltending and our defense, as strong as they were, plus 3 lines that all worked hard and could score, if we were within 2 or 3 goals of any hockey club going in the third period, we'd get it. We just knew it. And that's what we had in our minds. So he was a tremendous coach.
While scoring had never been a problem for the Smoke Eaters, it was the play of netminder Seth Martin that attracted the most attention early in that season. He had already shown signs of greatness to come. Born in Rosslyn, BC, he played his minor hockey up the hill and at the old Riverside Arena before joining Lethbridge, where he was the teammate of the great Guy Fielder in 1949-1950. Martin had emerged the WIHL's #1 puck stopper and Canada's masked marvel. He was noted as being the first international goalie to wear a face mask.
Well, you know what I remember? There are a couple of things. One is he's probably one of the first guys that I did see wear a mask. And the mask that I remember him wearing, and this was in the series that we had with him when I was with Chatham, kind of put rosy cheeks on his mask and just a bit of a smile. Isn't that nice? Normally, should be an evil-looking type guy and the weirdest looking, but no, he had the nice little apple rosy cheeks and a nice little smile on it.
On January 27, 1960, the Smoke Eaters would face their first real test under the coaching helm of Bobby Crom. The Moscow Selects were an all-star team from the Moscow City League, They were also the very first Soviet squad to tour Canada. A month earlier, they had steamrolled through the junior and senior ranks in the Ontario and Quebec leagues, winning 8 straight games before heading to BC. They were nicknamed the Red Machine by the Eastern sports writers.
We played in Trail here. Well, all I remember about that game is the crowd. I mean, an unbelievable crowd. When we came to the arena, you couldn't put another foot on the top concourse there where people were all standing. How the people got to their seats, I still don't know. And it was a real experience to play those guys. We never heard anything about it. We knew they'd won all their other games in Canada. But we had a couple guys from Nelson and a couple from Rawson came down. We were fortunate we beat them.
Crom, who was suffering from a broken thumb, scratched himself from the Smokies lineup, but was behind the bench to direct the club to a stunning, unbelievable 7-6 triumph.
The Russians came to town and played the Smoke Eaters, and being in the stands that game was outstanding. And people say there were 4,500 people in the arena, and it was unbelievable. Just watching that fast-paced hockey and skilled hockey, it was quite an event.
By vanquishing the Russians, the Smoke Eaters showed the rest of Canada what local fans had known for some time. The country's best senior hockey was played in the WIHL. The Smoke Eaters would continue to dominate the league for the rest of the season. As Bobby Crom earlier predicted, the Trail Smoke Eaters were on their way to the Allen Cup. After winning only one of the first 3 games in Kelowna, the Smokies notched 3 consecutive victories back home to clinch the title. The Port Arthur Bearcats were the Smokies' next opponent in the Western Canada Final. In order to cut down on expenses, the Bearcats agreed to play their entire best-of-7 series in Trail. Despite having oxygen tanks on their bench to compensate for the higher altitude of the West Kootenays, the Cats were swept in 4 games to set the stage for a showdown between the Smoke Eaters and the Chatham Maroons for the Allen Cup Championship. Chatham, the toast of the Ontario Senior Hockey League, had been beset by financial problems from the start of the 1959-1960 season. Several of the players, including star goaltender Cesar Maniego, had already signed professional contracts and were only on loan from their parent clubs. Chatham, thanks largely to Maniego's star goaltending, won 4 games and tied 1 en route to capturing the Allen Cup. Ironically, Maniego had been born and raised in Trail.
Oh, a real strange feeling, and I've never forgotten that. Mixed emotions. You come back here, as you say, fellas that I grew up with are playing for Trail. I knew most of the guys. There was a couple of fellas outside of Trail that they brought in, and just playing in the finals was a real exciting time for me. In fact, I like mentioning the story that Tony Poloni was the goal judge at that time. And, a lot of people recognize the name, and he played a little goal himself. And they didn't have glass in those days. There was just the wire mesh in behind the goal. And he's there, and he's kind of giving me a bit of advice, to maybe go out and block the angle a little better, or, maybe I should be moving a little quicker here and there. I think, gee, isn't this nice of him? And then when Trail scored a goal, he'd be cheering like crazy, and he's the goal judge. And I'd look around at him. Tony, I says, what's going? He says, Cesar, he says, I don't know who to cheer for here. He said, but he says, I think I got to cheer for Trail.
It was a tough series. Cesar, of course, was playing for Chatham at the time, Cesar Maniego. It was a local boy, and actually he basically stoned us. But it was a good series, but overall that was basically, our first experience really for most of us guys to really get into anything outside of our own league, into the real heavy competition. So it was a good series, and I think we all learned from it. I think that really helped us to develop a bit too.
But the victory would be the team's last hurrah. 2 months later, when the Canadian Hockey Association called with an invitation to represent Canada in the 1961 World Championships,